Every government on the planet is bankrupt. America, $38 trillion in debt. Europe, $14 trillion. Japan, $9 trillion. If everyone owes money, who is the creditor? The creditor doesn't exist. It's a ghost, and you've been paying interest to thin air for your entire life. This is Economic Autopsy. Today we dissect a $315 trillion con. Let me show you where this scam started. London, 1694. England is at war with France. The king's treasury is empty, no gold left. So the crown cuts a deal with the richest merchants in London. Lend us your gold today, and we'll pay you interest forever. Notice what's missing. We will never pay you back, just interest forever. These merchants created a new institution to manage this scheme. They called it the Bank of England. And suddenly sovereign debt wasn't shameful anymore. It became the foundation of power. Within decades, France copies it, Holland copies it, America copies it. Every major government realizes you don't need gold to wage war, you just need people to believe in your promises. Fast forward 300 years. Total government debt worldwide, $315 trillion. That's 3 times everything humanity produces in an entire year. Now here's where it gets strange. Take America's $38 trillion in national debt. Who holds it? 2/3 is owned by Americans. Your pension fund, your bank, your insurance company. China owns less than 2%. Japan owns about 3%. When politicians scream, China owns America, that's theater. Americans own America's debt. This is how the system works. The Treasury issues bonds. Your bank buys those bonds, then the Federal Reserve buys bonds from your bank and creates brand new currency out of nothing to pay for them. You pay taxes. Those taxes pay interest on the bonds. That interest goes to banks. Those banks manage your retirement account. It's a closed circle. You're borrowing from yourself, you're paying interest for yourself, except the interest flows upward and you're at the bottom. And this isn't just America. Tokyo lends to Washington, Washington lends to Brussels, Brussels lends to developing countries through the World Bank. Those developing countries take their dollar reserves and buy American Treasury securities. It's a game of musical chairs where everyone is holding everyone else's IOU. And the music only plays because nobody dares to stop dancing. But here's who actually controls this system. It's not governments, it's the investors who buy government debt. Massive pension funds controlling trillions, hedge funds, sovereign wealth funds from oil-rich nations. These institutions decide everything. They decide if your government pays 1% interest rates or 20% interest rates. When they lose confidence in a country, the currency collapses, the government falls, the economy restructures. You get to vote for politicians, but bond investors vote on whether your country survives. And above even them sit the central banks, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan. They don't manage money, they create it. Every time a central bank buys a government bond, it doesn't use existing money. It invents new money in that exact moment through monetary policy. Every single dollar in your pocket is someone else's debt. There is no such thing as debt-free money. It's a myth. This system survived for generations on one thing, belief. But watch what happens when that belief cracks. Greece, 2010. Debt became impossible to service. Investors panicked. Europe stepped in with a rescue. The price? Cut pensions, cut wages, cut health care. An entire generation sacrificed to pay bondholders. Sri Lanka, 2022. Couldn't service foreign debt. The government collapsed. People couldn't buy fuel or food. When the system breaks, the ghost creditor suddenly becomes very real. The IMF, credit rating agencies, faceless bondholders who can strangle your entire country.
Now I'm going to tell you something they don't teach in economics class. Government debt was never designed to be repaid. Ever. When you borrow money for a mortgage, you're expected to pay it back, principal plus interest. But governments don't work that way. When a bond matures, they issue a new bond to pay off the old bond. Economists call this refinancing. Politicians call it policy. The interest payment is the actual product. It's a permanent tax on your labor to keep the system stable. America's $38 trillion? It will never reach zero. Never. Japan has been rolling over its debt for 40 years. Their debt-to-GDP ratio is now 250% of their entire economy. And yet they still borrow at near zero interest rates. Why? Because the world's wealthiest investors treat government bonds as the safest investment in existence. A government bond isn't seen as a liability. It's the foundation underneath everything else. Banks use it as collateral. Pension funds depend on it for steady income. Central banks treat it like cash. The system needs governments to stay in debt forever. If the debt disappeared, the entire financial system would collapse. Think about it. If America paid off every penny tomorrow, impossible, but imagine. Every bank would lose its safest asset. Pension funds would have nowhere to invest. The dollar supply would evaporate. Global trade would seize up. Eliminating government debt would destroy the modern economy. So when a politician promises to eliminate the national debt, they're lying or they're ignorant. The real goal is to keep the debt growing at a rate that people still believe in. Keep it sustainable. Keep it desirable. Here's the secret. Repayment was never the plan. The plan is to make you believe repayment is possible. But here's the part that should make you angry. Economists love to say we owed the debt to ourselves. That sounds harmless. But interest doesn't flow in a circle. It flows in one direction, up. From workers and taxpayers at the bottom to bondholders and financial institutions at the top. Government debt doesn't move wealth between countries. It moves wealth between social classes. That's why income inequality and debt have exploded together over the past 50 years. You see this pattern everywhere. Your mortgage, corporate bonds, student loans, national debt. Same system, different scale. The people who own debt get richer. The people who owe debt stay trapped. The danger comes when the system runs out of fuel, when new borrowing can't cover old promises. That's when who's the creditor stops being an abstract question and becomes your personal crisis. Economic autopsy verdict. At the top of this $315 trillion pyramid, there's no villain to arrest. Not China, not banks, not politicians. It's the system itself, and that system includes all of us. Modern finance has done something remarkable. It turned debt into money and money into debt. They're the same thing now. The line between owing and owning has disappeared. Debt used to mean slavery. Now it means stability. But stability requires perfect balance, and perfect balance always fails eventually. When belief finally breaks, we'll remember what debt really is, a promise that can never be kept. This is economic autopsy. Evidence examined. Cause of death identified. The $315 trillion debt works exactly as designed. The creditor is a ghost. You pay anyway. The only question left is how long before the belief collapses. Financial architecture repeats, and at Economic Autopsy, we show you the blueprint before the building falls.